they call it the hole because it was dark off down in there. We maybe had maybe 3 street lights in the whole community down there. So that meant that it was dark. The whole streets down there were mud. And when it rained, you just mud down through there. And in order to get to at night, you'd better have some kind of a light or something, didn't you? You were just walking in mud and slush and water and all this kind of stuff. Of course, they didn't have no lights for you to see, and the street was made of mud. So, and shoot, in restrooms was something that they just didn't have. They had outhouses, just a hole dug in the ground and a building sitting up over it, and that was unsanitary. You know, that was when they had sewage over in other parts of town, and they would try to lie to me. One city manager did say, "Well, says the reason why we can't have sewage over in the Norris community there says it's too much too downhill or too uphill or down something he put around it." And so it just flashed through my mind then. I said, well, in other words, they don't have sewage in Dallas. I said, because it's up and downhill there. So I thought they would have to have it leveled down to the level where they dig down to. I said, now, you know, it takes maybe take more pipes and stuff. I said, but you can make your drains because it's got to have to start from a level state and then level off. And of course, they kind of snickered at him, the commissioners did, when I pointed it out to him, him a commissioner and me just a peon from off the street. So he changed that. He found he couldn't do that. And but he called himself, you know, get me in his office there. Me and him would be talking. And of course, he didn't look for me to go to the newspaper with what we were talking about. And I would. He didn't want that. Because he told me one time, said, well, now, you weren't supposed to go out and says, yeah, you and me were talking. I said, well, I didn't think you would tell me nothing you didn't want no one else to know. And I was helping you out. Shoot, he didn't like that.
Do you remember a detail that went into the paper that had him particularly shaken, or?
Yeah, one thing there. This one thing about the sewage, and there was another thing there about the what was it? Oh, it was a whole bunch of stuff that had come up back during that time that he would try to pull the wool over my eyes like that I'm supposed to be from another world or something. Just didn't know nothing about it. But once he found out that I knew quite a bit about the other thing, well, he wouldn't hold a conversation like that anymore. So, shoot, I just, but no, I have though. I've lived basically in Arizona, in Washington. That's where I entered into the service at, from Tucson, Arizona. And of course, I spent time from different walks of life. I did construction work, and shoot, I've worked at packing houses and Newhall Brothers. I've cut and pulled meat and made sausage and all that stuff for them. And then I went out to the Hugh B. Williams Manufacturing Company, where I swear I learned to weld it, and then from there I went to welding school. But when I started out just sweeping up the steel, you know, and metal and stuff, and there was a guy there that was welding, and I got to looking at him weld there, and he found that I was taking interest in that. He said, "You want to try it?" I said, "Well, I wouldn't know the first thing about that." He said, "Put on that hood over there," said, "Let me show you something." See, it's just a matter of, and shoot, he did. So, and all it is just a matter of striking an arc and holding it just the right distance from the metal, and blend them together. And shoot, I learned that was shoot. In a little while when I went to school, I was welding overhead, uphill, downhill, and doing all of it, you know. So, and gas welding, and all this kind of stuff, you know. But it's just, so once you get off into it and apply yourself there and get the way that you can do it, but once you do something, well, it's not too difficult for you to be able to repeat yourself again. You know, it might take you a little while to strike the heart if you hadn't welded in a long time, and to set your machine right to where it was hot enough or where it weren't too hot, and whether the metal that you were welding on was thick enough or thin enough or too thin or whatever, and then you'd have to cut your temperature down. But anyway, all of that just come into your head, you know, once you do that. Yeah.
What were some of the other things in the Norris community that needed improvement that had been neglected or never done, like maybe telephone service or postal delivery or?
Yes, now telephone service, that's, I mean, telephone service. They had like 4 and 5 party line telephones off in the community there, and didn't but about, let's see, that's A.C. Williams, he had one phone, and then it was about 6 people that had phones down in there, but they had all these party line phones, you know. They didn't have no, what you call a straight line, the way that you could, you know, that, and the lights, and of course water. That was another. They didn't have the sewage over there. And once we got the sewage, they had one lift station that supplied the whole community. And of course, the pipe. I still haven't figured out how they would go about getting this sewage. Well, that one lift station though, that it would pump. They would pump it. They never did have what you call that. It wouldn't run like it does in most cities. You had to push the water wherever you wanted. Gravity didn't have anything to do with it because they wouldn't elevate the pipes to underneath the ground. All this takes place under the ground, but they have that, and then they have big lines under the ground, you know, that you could walk in line. But Commerce, they didn't basically do the thing that they needed to do in order for the sewage to work there in the first place. They wanted to use a lift station so they could pump it from one place to the other. And in most of these cities, they have the gravity flow of it, you know. Like, because it was a long time before I figured out what the standpipes and things refer to in the city, but that was in order to build the power of the water that was put in instead of pumps. You know, doing the pumping of all of it, it was just a flow of gravity. They would use gravity in order to push your water through the lines and all this kind of stuff. But and another thing they still have a problem with here in Conrad. Well, recently the water tastes a little bit better, but where they treat the water at. Now we know water is water, and it's going to remain water. You can't destroy it. It'll just change from one form to the other. But what they would do here in the city, they would they wouldn't put the right material or the right chemicals into the water to knock all the germs out or to make it taste, you know, change the taste to it. I guess because the chemicals cost so much money. I don't know just what the deal was, but anyway, they haven't got it